On camera, she laughed while she badgered her staff. And so all good things must end. And also the Ellen DeGeneres show. Yes, the 83-year-old entertainer just announced that the upcoming 19th season of her show will be its last. Apparently, she created a workplace more toxic than an Amazon warehouse in Chernobyl.
She was said to be a nasty biatch, and that's Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah.
So her show got canceled after she had this testy exchange with Dakota Johnson, where something happened where Dakota said, oh, I had this birthday party, and Ellen said, well, why didn't you invite me? You didn't invite me. And she said, like, no, I did invite you, Ellen. That's not what happened. And Ellen had blown her off and then tried to play the victim on the set with her. Anyway, it led to article after article of people being like, Ellen is a nasty person.
Megyn Kelly and Greg Gutfeld just removed their gloves and tore Ellen's like a hurricane-tossed Hallmark card. They revealed the flaws in the glittering queen of daytime TV. From stage smiles to backroom oppression, Megyn shattered the illusion with cold accuracy, while Gutfeld derided her gentle enterprise as a pastel-colored scam. It was more than simply a roast. Ellen's well-planned legacy was destroyed. Hold on tight. Brutal honesty was offered with kindness.
Dana, Ellen is blaming this on misogyny, but there were females that were involved in criticizing her and her staff.
Yeah.
Ellen is a nasty person, and all these staffers started to come out. Not for nothing, but I know a guy, I know him very well, whose sister worked for her, who said, you were not allowed to make eye contact with Ellen in the halls of that show. If you saw her, this is not a nice person.
Greg Gutfeld smirked without even trying to hide it. The moment Ellen DeGeneres' name appeared on his radar once, again, he realized the roast was almost written. This lady was formerly acclaimed as the uncontested queen of dance-walking, pastel cardigans, and ambiguous feel-good slogans. She was also known as the queen of midday joy. But that bubbly persona had aged like milk in a microwave, Greg said. The moment had come for a reckoning.
Countless allegations surfaced last summer that the show's work environment was rife with harassment and discrimination. Following those charges, Ellen's ratings dropped faster than Kevin Spacey's pants at a boy band pool party. Try to say that fast. But Ellen told the Today Show, home of Matt Lauer, that the bad press actually had nothing to do with her decision. Right, and the Titanic didn't hit an iceberg, it chose.
With the vigor of a man who had been waiting for this for years, he began the roast. One phrase, he said, was the foundation of Ellen's whole empire. Good, simply lovely. An aggressively courteous personality brand that might make a group of golden retrievers seem hostile. However, as soon as the curtain was drawn, it became apparent that the backstage atmosphere of her act was more hostile than a reunion of Real Housewives after tequila drinks.
DeGeneres bails for the UK. All right, I'm gonna go to you first, Kat, because this is such a, I think you understand the story. So Ellen and her wife, Portia, have left their millionaire haven of Montecito for England. Now they're saying they'll never come back in the wake of Trump's win. Do you think that's the reason why she's leaving?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, Ellen got canceled for real a few years ago from just being a...
Greg pushed into the paradox, chuckling at the idea that Ellen managed her studio like a boot camp for scared interns and fatigued aides, while having created a billion-dollar company on compassion. He said that attempting to keep eye contact with Ellen while holding lukewarm coffee was the only thing more frightening than being summoned to her office. You were just a frown away from a complete HR investigation if the temperature wasn't precisely what she desired.
She's coming back. She's got a Netflix special. That's the right response.
Yeah.
She's got a Netflix special. And here's the capper. On the promo, and apparently there's now articles out about from people who have seen the preview, she plays the victim. And she says, poor me. And she actually has the nerve to say that she was run out of college.
He likened the entire thing to learning that your kindergarten teacher was a loan shark in a previous life, the terrible work atmosphere. wasn't the only aspect of the betrayal, it was that people had really fallen for the lie. It wasn't Ellen who hosted, she was a force. A live inspirational billboard encased in Hollywood glitz and vegan silk. Additionally, the internet almost crashed due to the collective whiplash when the reports hit the fan.
In the meantime, to make sure that my staff isn't pissed at me like Ellen, I had my assistant, James, ask them how stuff is going so far.
So how's Greg done behind the scenes lately?
Oh, unbelievable. When I first got this job, Greg flew to Arkansas and packed my bags for me. And then when we got to New York, he said I could live at his apartment and he would go stay at a youth hostel, which doesn't really make sense. But oh yeah, the show's been great.
Well, my wedding dress got destroyed right before the wedding.
I had my assistant James question my staff how things are going so far in the interim to make sure they aren't as angry at me as Ellen's were. How has Greg been doing recently behind the scenes? Whoa, that's incredible. Greg traveled to Arkansas and packed my things when I first started working here. It doesn't really make sense, but when we arrived in New York, he offered to let me stay at his apartment while he went to a youth hostel. Oh, and the show has been fantastic. Well, just before the wedding, my wedding gown was damaged.
Because, so now she's out there saying, I was run out of Hollywood. She's actually reportedly complaining about how hard it is for women in America with the double standards.
Look at Oprah, how hard it is for her.
Oh, she's got, what, like 10 houses, Ellen DeGeneres?
Michelle Obama, look how hard it is for women in America. They're hurting.
They're going to let her back in, Rob, because she's a leftist and she didn't hit one of their sacred cows.
Greg wasn't finished yet. He found it amusing that Ellen's program gradually turned into a factory for manufactured happiness. If you watched closely, the smiles tightened with each season, as if a Pinterest board were holding everyone hostage, he observed. It seemed as if someone off camera was holding a grin or else sign next to the cue card at one point, making even the audience's applause seem uneasy. He then went completely off topic, claiming that neither Ellen's dancing nor her monologues were the most remarkable aspects of her career. It was her method of persuading others that acting phony kindness was a virtue, authenticity was lacking. Performance art was what it was, she was not a talk show host. She oversaw a daytime cult in which the initiation rite was sobbing next to a D-list star, and the Kool-Aid was natural. He said the entire be kind thing, but she applied the tagline to every aspect of her business if it were a spiritual quest. Be kind, she urged. It seemed more like a threat than advice, Greg muttered, rolling his eyes. It's a phrase that sounds like it might be sewn into a throw pillow in a haunted Airbnb. It wasn't goodwill, it had to do with branding purposeful, carefully chosen, and weaponized compassion.
A pretty exhausting investigation into my staff there, Kat. I think we could safely say that I am not a jerk, despite the rumors. Do you think this is just people, when you become successful, you have to spend less time with people around you because you're servicing, take Ellen DeGeneres, she's servicing millions of people in her show, therefore she has to kind of like mitigate or control the amount of exposure with actual people.
He focused on Ellen's notorious celebrity interviews, making fun of the way each one seemed like a stage therapy session for celebrities who had nothing to say. It was like being trapped at brunch with individuals who only speak about how much they meditate and how dairy damaged their aura, Greg remarked of watching such interviews. In a forced chuckle with the emotional range of a mall greeter. It was fluff on top of fluff, then the goods arrived. The empire of Ellen-themed merchandise, which included pet sweaters and stationery, made Greg snort. He said, nothing screams authenticity like a mass-produced coffee mug telling you to be your best self, apparently sold by a lady who made employees weep for breathing too loudly. You could use the irony to butter toast since it was so thick. Greg concluded his part by arguing that Ellen's demise was inevitable and not shocking. She stumbled over her own brand and attempted to attribute it to the lights, but she didn't fall from grace. The world was finally able to see what was really beneath the glitter and the smiles as the dance breaks ended and the curtain was drawn back. Megyn Kelly was getting ready for her turn, While Greg was busy using his signature bite to destroy Ellen's reputation, stylish, intent, and utterly unimpressed.
This is the promo for her Netflix special, and here's a clip.
Decided to take up gardening. I got chickens. Let me see what else I can tell you about that. What's been going on? Oh yeah, I got kicked out of show business. Be kind girl wasn't kind. That was the headline. Here's the problem. I'm a comedian who got a talk show, and I ended the show every day by saying, be kind to one another. Had I ended my show by saying, go fuck yourselves, people would have been pleasantly surprised to find out I'm kind.
Like a lawyer getting ready to make final arguments, Megyn walked into the roast. She dissected instead of shouting or sneering. Ellen had more than just a nasty personality to her. She served as the face of Hollywood's most repulsive hypocrisy. According to Megyn, Ellen embodied all the worst aspects of celebrity culture's fixation on feigned virtue, and she intended to dissect it in layers. She began by claiming that Ellen was more of a brand gone bad than a person. PR experts and executive producers created this Frankenstein of public relations because they believed that smiling sufficiently could take the place of content. Ellen, the art of appearing sincere in a world that thrives on control and micromanagement, Megyn said. Every chuckle was accompanied by a checklist. Every embrace had a signal that was timed perfectly.
Come back this year. I really did think about not coming back because it did, it was devastating. I am a kind person. I am a person who likes to make people happy.
No, the real reason, she says, is it was just too easy. Telling the Hollywood Reporter, quote, when you're a creative person, you constantly need to be challenged. And as great as this show is, and as fun as it is, it's just not a challenge.
Megyn focused on the controversy at work. She spelled it out like an accusation rather than just mentioning it. Emotional manipulation, toxic culture, rewarding silence, and punishing disagreement. And to top it all off, Ellen's face was shown on billboards advocating empathy and compassion. Megyn referred to it as industrial-scale emotional gaslighting. She chuckled in that icy, piercing tone that asked, "How did anyone fall for this?" Rather than laughing, Ellen's kindness was transactional. She added, "As long as you had a purpose, everything worked. You were disposable as soon as you caused trouble. A staff member with a scent allergy, an assistant with a question, or a guest who wasn't engaging enough."
I don't sense any humility
No.
in that.
No. And no one cares that now she's dealing with chickens. It's like, all right,
You're a normal $450 million
Right.
person.
And by the way, I guarantee you she's
Who's
worth
taking
a
care
lot
of her
more.
chickens? I guarantee. What's that? You guarantee what?
She's worth a lot more
yeah,
than
yeah.
$450 million.
Her art alone.
And like those talk show hosts.
Her devil-worshipping art alone.
It's just, it's too much. I can't stand these rich celebrities who want us to feel sorry for them.
Megyn Kelly didn't just criticize Ellen, she dismantled her. She called out how quickly A-list celebrities defended Ellen after the toxic workplace allegations, noting they only ever saw the red carpet version, not the one who punished assistants for breathing too loudly. Megyn acknowledged Ellen's impact as a pioneer, but claimed that instead of building inclusivity, she built control. Courage gave way to contracts. Her apology? More like PR damage control than real remorse. The brand came before the truth, even after the damage was done.
Well, wait, are these still your people? Are you still in California?
No, I had to move out of California because I
Yes.
got little kids. And
We
it's
understand why.
It's dangerous to, in California, take your kids, in public schools. In the morning you drop off a girl, in the afternoon you pick up a boy. You never know what you're going to get. But I really didn't feel it was safe in California. And I felt, it's very interesting because I'm getting those calls, and I'm sure you are too, where people call you and say, I wish I could come out and say what I believe, I agree with you.
Megyn's final strike was piercing. Ellen's empire didn't fall because of one scandal. It was built on a fantasy. The illusion that someone could be flawless, beloved, and morally perfect eventually collapsed under its own weight. As the audience evolved, Ellen clung to old trick stances and smiles that no longer worked. Megyn wasn't gloating. She said Ellen wasn't a villain, but a mirror. One that reflected everything we should have questioned. But DID in single quotes, Greg Gutfeld wasn't done either. He mocked Ellen's carefully curated image, comparing it to a magician pretending the rabbit teleported while the paw stuck out from under. The table behind the Just Like Us persona was a tightly controlled regime of forced smiles and loyalty oaths. Her fans, Greg said, weren't inspired, they were entranced. It wasn't fandom, it was Stockholm Syndrome with mood lighting.